Hello everyone and welcome to your horoscope for the week of April 17th to 23rd, 2023. First of all, I would like to wish everyone of the Christian Orthodox faith a very happy Easter, and also one of the energies that is happening this week is the sun entering the sign of Taurus. So I would also like to wish a very happy birthday month to all of the Taurus natives out there. Now we have a really powerful week because this week we have the eclipse and we also have Mercury changing signs, going retrograde in the sign of Taurus. And we are going to be feeling this Mercury retrograde quite intensely in our bodies or in our senses or in our material situation, or let's say in our inner values, if not all that much materially, but to be totally honest, this does have a strong, material connotation to it. In different points of this Mercury retrograde season, of course, but overall, I do imagine that it will have at least one physical element to it. As I said, may it be body, may it be an inner value change that will reflect outside, or financial and Mercury, the thoughts, the calculations, the plans. And in the sign of Taurus, this is where it's our most solid structures. Taurus is the earth, so even personally it embodies the element where we kind of have our roots, our stability. Even if it's just a psychological energy, any kind of stability is very important to the wholeness of our being. So yes, for this reason we are definitely going to be feeling this Mercury retrograde season, not just uh, Virgo natives, Gemini natives, and Taurus natives, but basically everyone is going to be feeling, including collectively. Actually, very much so collectively. Because at the time of this Mercury retrograde, Pluto is going to be squaring the nodes of the moon, which are in the same sign. And towards the very end of the Mercury retrograde, and to get the facts right, this Mercury retrograde begins on the 21st of April and it ends on May the 14th. So this retrogradation is going to be taking place on the 21st, but even on the day of the eclipse, Mercury will already be standing still in the sky, expressing itself in a very shadowy way. This will be at around, if I'm not mistaken, 15 degrees of the sign of Taurus, so very close to Uranus. And on the 21st of April, when it goes retrograde, it will go retrograde with being conjunct the moon. So you can imagine the conjunction. The moon will go forward normally, and Mercury will move backwards on the path it took to get to this 15 degrees. So that conjunction with the moon, the beginning energy, the starting energy, the how do you say that, the tune, with the pitching fork, you hit the fork and you hear the tune. So that's basically what this moon is going to do to this Mercury retrograde. We're going to be feeling it on a soul level, emotional level, in a rather Cancerian way, if that even makes sense. And speaking about the Cancerian way, well, this Mercury will sextile Mars, and also Uranus will sextile Mars, because Mercury will be very close to Uranus. And that is a pretty good sign, so to speak, because there is power here, there is intent here, there is emotion here, very strong emotion that does change the setup, inner setup, outer setup. There is the energy of alliance, thereby Mars in Cancer. So Mars is protecting its home, it's protecting its roots, it's protecting everything that emotionally is valuable to him, its past, so to speak, its ancestor, its honor. So this will play out in our lives individually, as in an impulse, like we will be protecting something, fighting for something, something that is valuable, familiar, we love, or a loved one of a loved one, etc., etc. And collectively out there, also because this is an eclipse week, we are definitely going to be feeling this, seeing this, experiencing this one way or another. Now, I would like to first begin with a certain expression of this energy which we cannot ignore, which we cannot not speak about, if that even makes sense, because it can be a bit violent, it can be a bit volcanic, it can be a bit, tensionate, where certain tensions do, ignite something. And this can be ethical, cultural. Mars is the ruling planet of the eclipse because of the sign it takes place in Aries, and the eclipse is energetic. So, Mars speaking with Mercury in a sextile at the time of the eclipse, news travels quickly. And this is where there's a small danger, because Mercury in shadow, news, but how do we react to it? How do we interpret it? What does it mean to us? So we need to sit back and take a moment to do exactly that, interpret it in a deeper way for us, and then take action. But of course, out there in the world, this might not be possible. So people rising up, anything that has to do with uprise, especially because Mars sextiles Uranus, any uprising is promoted by Mars. And why? Because, any uprising is meant to protect family, protect ethnicity, protect the values, protect, Cancerian energies, family, the well being of your children, the well being of your loved ones, the well being of your community of brothers, sisters, this being a big part of it. And needless to say, Pluto activating Aquarius very strongly. Rebellious energy, revolutionary energy. Aquarius is associated with the French Revolution, the uprising, So liberty, fraternity, equality. Pluto in Aquarius highlights both. It highlights the lack of this when there is oppression, etc. And, in Aquarius, the individual matters as much as the collective. But it also highlights the misuse of liberty. When someone just doesn't do justice with the expression of their own liberty, this will be like, you know, eliminated socially, collectively. This is where the collective, because Aquarius, a Uranian sign, right? Yes, but it's also a Saturnian side. A sign, sorry. And it has the Saturnian side, yes, where, just like our immune system or our bodies, the pus, the filth, that which does not really belong there and is not tolerated, is eliminated. So fake values, and exactly when someone doesn't do justice with the expression of their liberty, what they do with their liberty is collectively, let's say, disgusting or not really appealing or really false, mimicry, then that is, in this week especially, violently eliminated. And we will see this playing out on the world stage symbolically and not all that symbolically as well. Um, the eclipse is very powerful. It is, of course, the highlight of the week. It is one of the most important energies of the week because it's life changing both individually and collectively. It is energetic, so it is heavily fated. And unlike most eclipse energies, it almost invites us to place the seed of intention into the cosmos, into the ether, because that is our act of fighting for our survival, but in the most elevated way. The collective wish, the collective desire is very important at this time, because literally there's a side to this where we get what we want, but conjunct Jupiter. Okay, conjunct Jupiter. Not all that tightly, but Jupiter is there. Jupiter is very active and very, very important. Jupiter himself is conjunct Eris. Again, this points to uprising, rebellion, fight for justice, fight to be heard, fight for sovereignty. There is no going back. Something reached its final stages and it's there. It's all to see, all to behold, that it's there and no more. And karmically, this can mean so very many beautiful, reliefful, joyous expressions. But on the world stage, this is where, without a doubt, this can mean that something, people, some justice issues, Jupiter, sovereignty issues, anything that has to do with the rights of the individual has reached the end of tolerance. So something is bound to stir up. Of course, maybe not this week. The greater expressions of this were, when this a new legal balance hits the courts of justice, international or like European or federal or how you ever you call it in where you are. Well, that needs a bit of time, but maybe the event that triggers it might happen this week. But of course, like any eclipse and new moon, the sphere of manifestation can be the when it happens and this next 6 months. So, but this is Aries, this is heavily energetic, so it's like a discharge almost. It's like sudden, it's like the spark is born. And I would like to mention the Sabian symbol of the eclipse, that 29 degrees of Aries, where it is a pond where a duck is, guiding her brood. And the lake, the pond, the water symbolizing something is making our unconscious. So it's hitting as deep as possible because the water is the unconscious, our dreams, our in Aries, the inner animal, also its feelings. Something is shaping it to be a safe haven, basically. Not without challenges, not without its own dynamism, without its own cycles, etc. But it is a safe haven. Maybe not all ducklings will survive because the the pond takes its toll, nature takes her toll, but they survive. The brood survives. And it's a safe haven, it's full of food, it's a beautiful habitat. And you can imagine in the summer, it's more than beautiful. It's like truly magical. Because it thrives with life, with hope, with everything. But this is the Sabian symbol of the eclipse. So something is being born out of it, but it's based on a need. When want has to match the need. That's why the safe haven. Because it's a want, it's a desire, obviously, but it's also a need. So the want meeting the need represents the authenticity. It represents the truthfulness, that it is like a quantum imprint that yes, something needs to be born, to exist, to be a certain way. And this is how we can very beautifully explain the karmic nuance of this energy, both individually and collectively. Now, of course, individually it depends where it is in your chart, which area of life. That's where a very strong and quite positive, why not change? Something new is coming in your life, but also that new might terminate something old. So it's in a way dual, but it's like the beginning and the end. But this is where maybe the beginning comes before the end, and the end is so sweet. But of course, as I said, this can have a very strong psychological backup to it, where energetic Aries can be a moment of great intensity, a moment of courage, a moment of determination, a moment of clarity, an inner impulse, an inner drive. It can be when something just ignites in your being and it determines you to take certain actions, certain choices, reactions. So yes, this can represent when, because, and also Aries is the head, so our guidance system, our inner GPS, and it can be an external trigger that determines us to do something, feel a certain way. It can, as I said, play out depending on the specifics of the area of life, but it does bring a change and a powerful, as I said, new beginning in the sense that something is definitely born, a need with a want, if that even makes sense. Now, of course, it's not easy because the because Pluto squares. It holds an outer sign square with the eclipse, but very, very shortly after the eclipse, the sun, along with the moon in this case, move into the sign of Taurus. So that's when the sun will square Pluto. And the moon, of course. So that will be like it won't be the phenomenon of the eclipse and the new moon, but the square will be taking place immediately. So that kind of reinforces, what does Pluto come with? A truth that you just can't deny anymore, a moment of personal clarity, a power that you have and you have to use. May that be anything. Social influence, Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, the power of many, the power of unity, or the opposite of this, the power of the individual when you got away from the community, so to speak, when you withdraw. Everyone's specific, so this Pluto comes with a power that we have to use. The power can lie in a choice, in a decision, in a truth, in a plan, in a epiphany, in a dream, in 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 something that you figured out that you don't want ever to have part of you be part of your life. So in any way, Pluto comes with an understanding, a truth, and a power that it holds. For example, from the most practical, because Pluto squaring the North Node and the South Node, of course, a business that you, in the last moment, have a second thought. Nah, I'm not investing. This is not for me. This doesn't match my needs. This is I get myself, I get my dream, I get what it came from, where it came from, which seed planted in childhood, or a trauma, or a dissatisfaction, or the opposite, someone's joy, and I want to feel that joy, someone's example for, but this is where your rational Aquarius mind, your higher intelligence tells you that no, this isn't really the moment, but the dream is so beautiful. We'll do it another way. We will definitely not give up. We're going with the flow. But this can be something to, like, we love each other. Like, let's say it's a marriage. We love each other dearly, but we are just allies in soul. Our bodies don't desire each other. What do you do with this? You fix the situation with in a Plutonian way. Either compromise or you swear each other eternal alliance, but go bodily, sensually, your own ways. There's a myriad. Aquarius is so good at finding a solution to everything, a right balance. So that's what Pluto comes to the table with, in a constructive, in a useful, in an Aquarian way. Because Pluto, when it enters a sign, it highlights all the power, all the good, all the glory, all the glitter, the gold of that sign. And Aquarius is very ingenious. Aquarius is really someone who, well, can find truly a way, a mean, a solution, a balance, a compromise for every situation and for everyone. Everyone. Aquarius does not want genuinely to discriminate. Aquarius wants everyone to be part. Because why? The individual can only shine if everyone has equal chances. Because if they don't have equal chances, then your shine is a false shine, isn't it? Because it's easy to shine when no one can. So Aquarius wants everyone to be on equal position. Because that's when the shine is true. Even the admiration, the love is true. Because everyone is truly in an equal position. Energetically, legally, in a competition, to be fair game, whatever the expression, but Aquarius is very much about fairness. And Pluto, as I said, highlights even this. Sometimes we're so used to the energy of imbalance, injustice, and stuff like that. But sometimes, actually, the universe, the cosmos, does embrace justice and equality. Sometimes it does embrace the opposite of the age of Taurus, so to speak. The past great conjunction was in Taurus. So that Taurus is where it reflected so much in that era, so to speak, pre-COVID society, where rights and comfort were taken to the extremes. Like coffee cups which had the writing caution hot spelled on them in 10 million languages. Like, the usefulness is there, but it's heavily exaggeration. It is when Taurus is invaded by Scorpio. The axis. This is when Taurus starts behaving like Scorpio. The intent is Taurian, but the modus operandi is heavily Scorpionic because it's simple but so unnecessarily complicated, because only who doesn't want to live in this plane of existence will not figure out that the coffee that you just bought is gonna be burning hot. You know what I mean? But this is like a misuse of rights. And you can Taurus the money, the compensation bestowed for this, because all of this was born out of a single court case where someone sued the company because it didn't make it obvious that the coffee is burning hot and they burned their tongue or whatever. That was when the first seed of darkness was. And Taurus is the sign that hosts Algol and a few other beautiful demonic stars, so to speak. But Algol, that was when the head of injustice was born. When you make injustice justice, because divine justice would say, well, why don't you ask yourself, rather than to sue the company, what your life wants to say by burning your tongue? Maybe you're a liar, maybe you're. But you know what I mean? There is an energy attached to that small inconvenience, even if you ended up in hospital. First, before you do anything, ask yourself, why? What does this tell me? In a more deeper way, in a philosophical way. Anyway, so this is what Pluto demolishes. Pluto fights this. When we misuse liberties, justices, in order to get what we want, in order to compensate the lower ego, Taurus. The one part of Taurus, of course, not that Taurus, a part of Taurus. So we are going to be seeing this on the world stage, symbols of what I said playing out, because Jupiter is really, really there. Jupiter with Eris. Eris is the divine rebel, really. And Eris usually fights with starking truth. Eris fights with, you know, something that no one can unsee. She's shocking, and she doesn't leave anyone or anything behind. She has usually a kind of cruel expression to her, because she is living chaos. She destroys, she cuts. But there is also sacred expression to her, where she protects that which is defeated by all odds. Ares comes and defeats the odds, like David and Goliath. And this is where David and Goliath to be understood not just in a ridiculous way, but rather in an alchemical way, where Goliath is like a titan, is like a divine godly being, almost one step from omniscience, omniscient, whatever. And David is just a divine seed, nowhere near the titanic being. And still, David embodies the will of the Creator. Even a titan who is against the will of the Creator will crumble in a millisecond. There is no way stopping divine will and justice, and Eris is the gateway to that. That part of the divine that cannot be stopped by anything divine or not so divine. And Jupiter expanding this, yeah. This is where we are going to be seeing some fights out there in the world. And another energy which I find very interesting is that the North Node is also conjunct Vesta in the sign of Taurus. And by this time, the Sun is very close to them. Sun conjunct North Node and Vesta. And Vesta brings the sacredness to it, protection and the sacred fire. In this configuration where the Sun combusts it, it does mean equality, and Pluto squaring this, it does mean that there is no choice but to be equal, to fair, to be Aquarian for everyone. This is where the lower ego has to give way to the higher intent. And let me give you an example where, and I have to use this so carefully because I don't want to offend anyone. So I have no choice but to use the Bible verse, and blame it on Christianity if someone gets offended, because I'm just recalling something that I read as well. You know, where there is Christ and people donating to the cause of the Christ, or at least to the divine. And there is the rich man who gives, of course, sack of gold or whatever, and there is the poor beggar woman who gives something, a copper or something. And of course, needless to say, Christ affirmed or said to the people that in the divine's eyes, what the poor beggar lady gave, that was like a part of her life. That was like she gave a part of her being, a part of her body. And what the rich man gave was just a measly little coin, which maybe in his heart of hearts, even he kind of still feels the pain of letting it go, of giving it just to the ether, to the void, because ultimately, to him, that's what it is. So, this is where you get what I mean. This energy is going to be highlighted. The value of sacrifice, the value of everyone has to get what they truly sacrifice, if you know what I mean. So the old beggar lady has to get, everything, a house, to be in basic needs in the same position as the rich person, in just basic need. So that means no cold, no hunger, and stuff like that. So, but for the rich man, getting back what he gave, well, in a certain way, is equally as valuable, because maybe with the cost of that little which he still gave, he surrendered the attachment, he surrendered the greed. he gets a divine inspiration to find an expression of happiness. It's not material, it's not basic need, but it is that which actually feeds his life and his soul and sanctifies his riches. So everyone gets something. And this is what Pluto in Aquarius squaring the nodes in node. No, North Node, Sun, and Vesta in the sign of Taurus translates to me that all of us will get what is very, very important and within our primal need, but in the measure of what sacrifice we also gave. What did we do for it? In any way, shape, and form. Aquarius air. This is the principle. Aquarius is the sign of ideology. So it's the ideology of what we thought, of what we did, of what action we took, what psychological inner configuration we did, the ideology of it. And ideology is in the realm of the divine. That is why, alongside Pisces, Aquarius is also a heavily spiritual sign, but not in a classic way, neither in a Sagittarian way, neither in a Piscean way, but in its own unique, almost like quantum, higher thought, ideological way, the divine ideology. So that is the lens that which karma is looking through at. What is the ideology of what we are doing? What action we are taking? How we are thinking, how we are processing? How are we solving our problems in ideology? Is this dichotomous? Yes. Is Aquarius dichotomous? Yes. So that's why it's perfect. Because the ideology of where to buy the bread from. Ridiculous? Maybe not. Maybe not. Because if you have the guts to idealize, let's say, where the bread or whatever criteria you use to buy your bread from, maybe the place, the company, the materials, the ingredients, the whatever, if you bring a bit of ideology of divine into that simplest thing, the divine can use your playful quest to get an item to connect you with the love of your life, your next boss, who's gonna be exactly who you need. Of course, Aquarius. Something, something that you need. So this is where inviting the higher expression of all into our thoughts is truly mind over matter. This is where I am. What would I call this? Maybe even Descartian, because Aquarius and its ruling planet Uranus is so much about Descartes as well. I think, therefore I am. And if we bring a little bit of higher thought into everything that we do, into our lower mind, because Gemini is the lower mind, so you can imagine this Pluto will trine Gemini at certain points of its transit, but it trines everything that you have in Gemini at one in the next 20 years. If you have something in the very early degrees of Gemini, then the trine is already operational. Now, some astrologers consider it till 10 degree a trine, others 5, others 3. But if you kind of have something at the beginning of Gemini, especially if it's your sun, you might be feeling the power of this, the power that you already have in your hands, just by idealize it, bringing ideology, into the lower thought, the lower mind, the autopilot. If you manage to refine even the autopilot, make the autopilot automatically benevolent, beneficial, a good human being, a good element, a good person, a good whatever. That will reflect in your life in so many ways. And chances are quite immediately, because that's the essence of the square. To do what I said is so hard. Don't get me wrong. To truly master your mental sphere, to make your lower mind a bit more beneficial, a bit more optimistic, a bit more, as I said, a good human being than it is, that is infinitely hard. That is very, very hard. For example, to just have, I don't know, a walk, have a hike, or go shopping, go somewhere, and your lower mind not to be a vengeful, toxic, scorpionic monster, just to not think bad thoughts in an aggressive way. What do I mean? When we look at anything, if we see the bad first, how ugly it is, how asymmetrical, she's so vain, he's so like this, look, he's showing off his watch, his what car, that's jealous. You know, if our thoughts contain a lot of criticism, but bad criticism, a lot of aggression, a lot of, well, I don't wish you well, well, this toxicity, the lower mind, our lower expression will have a certain lifestyle and certain synchronicities and certain coincidences, even if we consciously manage to not bring it to our higher mind, to let it just be in our lower mind. That's already a big deal. That's already a big deal. If you, at the end of the day, manage to somehow admit your mistakes and you weren't all that good in thought, at least that day, and at least have the wish to yourself that you do better the next day, at least a tiny bit better, that you get more positive, and that after the holiday or what, even if you just do this, it's already really good. But would you be able to truly stop your lower mind from being aggressive, from being to being constructive? Like, for example, Gemini, the expression of the lower mind, it can be like a wasp swarm and sting anything in its that your because it's just thought, but then your energies are already stinging that person's auric field. Not a big deal. The person probably won't. Nothing all that bad will happen, but in the eyes of the divine, you're stinging. You're a stinging wasp. Would you turn this to a bee? Because that's also Gemini, the different expression. And just collect your pollen. Just be playful about your day. Everything is a small adventure. There's a problem, and how to solve it is not, oh, I wanted to say a bad word. S it, sod it, or something similar, and everything is hard, everything is irritating. Oh, well, let me just get it out of the way. That's the wasp. You kind of sting things away from your reality. You keep it clean, okay? The wasp is feared even in the insect kingdom, don't get me wrong. How many insects, non-venomous insects, camouflage themselves as wasp for others to leave it alone? Wasp mantis, for example. But there's the bee. The bee kind of finds the adventure to getting its job done. The adventure makes it playful. That activates the highest expression of the lower mind. If you manage to make your mental sphere into a constructive bee, Or, okay, some people cannot do the playful because there's that much Saturnian. But then there you go, the end. Doing its job, soldiering on, marching on. It's not all that bothered about the negativity of others. It minds its own thing, you know? If you manage to do that, that's absolutely fine. That means that your reality is upgraded to be, you know, something worthy of a bee. A bee needs to see the flowers. The ant needs to see whatever it's doing, if you know what I mean. Or it needs to see its own usefulness in something, and that's an adventure that's satisfying, that makes it a valuable member of the swarm colony or whatever. So yeah, the wasp kind of similar in a way, but the wasp's life cycle is also as tough and rough as the wasp itself. For example, the wasp queen is killed every single year. Her reign is just one cycle, no more. She cannot sit on her throne a lot. Anyway, so yes, this is what kind of Pluto asks of us from Aquarius. Because if you do this, you can, according to the laws of quantum physics, according to the quantum rules, another person will manage it. Another person who, before you managed it, found himself, herself an impossibility to manage it. But because you shifted an energy, you already opened quantumly without knowing, without wanting, even if you care zero or in minus, you already made it quantumly possible for another soul to do it. You made the difference already for another soul by winning with your own quantum leap, with your own fight, with your own life upgrade, reality upgrade if you wish, because the motor, the function, the software, it's different. You already evolved from wasp into something that is the essence of life. Bees and all of these insects are, without them everything's gone in a few 10 decades or what. I'm not a biologist, but you know what I mean. From something rather aggressive, just another predator, into the keeper of life, really. That's the upgrade. So this is where it's so important, because if you do this for yourself, that means already you overcame your limitations. You morphed out of something that you, in a way, but have limited you. It was meant to limit you. It was that exam which you were meant to fail, because you weren't all that special in everything that would turn a wasp into a bee, if you know what I mean. The universe didn't see it in you that you would be mature enough to, you know, let go of your venom or toxicity or whatever. Surprise it, and it will surprise you in ways that will blow your mind truly. Delight the creator, and it will delight you in ways that are really mysterious even to you. And this is where the same goes with pain. If you are, tough enough to take the pain, you can be sure that you will take the opposite. That will come without hesitation. So, yeah. So, whatever you do for yourself, you leave the divine schematic imprint in the ether somewhere for another soul to do the same. And for that soul, be sure it's even impossible, more impossible than it was for you. Maybe your own epiphanies also came because another soul before you broke its own chains. And that quantumly echoed to you as well. It reached you one way or another, through a song, through whatever, whatever. but it reached you, and you're doing it, and it will chain and chain and chain. This energy of liberation will just chain. That is why sometimes, whatever this Pluto or whatever this eclipse might want to take away from us, we need to let it go with a smile on our faces. Now, if you'd like to know more about the specific of the eclipse, I have a special video about that, and I have another video where I break it up to the 12 signs what the eclipse means for them. So I'm gonna link that, check it out if you'd like. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for all the love, for all the support. If you'd like to keep my channel going, you can donate in the PayPal link in the description below. And with this being said, I'm wishing everyone a really blessed eclipse, and may this energy bring really, really positive changes in our lives. Until next time, bye for now.